Welcome back to the Carl Zahn Show. My brothers, my sisters, my voice is a little harsh because I've been yelling a lot for the last day or two. Go figure. You'll notice that today is no notes and no pants. Although I don't think you can tell because of the tablecloth. All kinds of stuff to talk about, obviously. Very fascinating week. One of the first things that caught my eye earlier in the week, and I had no idea that this was in production or even coming out, but I saw a trailer for a new Robert DeNiro movie. I guess he's doing a second version of Cape Fear, only this time it's filmed in New York. It's that same kind of crazy Max Cady, come out, wherever you are, counselor. And I was all excited, and I saw this movie trailer, and I started going online, see, like, when does it come out? When does it hit the theaters? And then a friend of mine told me, no, it's not a movie trailer. It was Robert De Niro protesting in New York outside the Donald Trump trial. And how fascinating to see that Robert De Niro, and, you know, I've loved his movies over the years and the gangster movies and all that, and always took him to be a very talented man. And because of talented, had assumed that he was intelligent. And it turns out that he's not intelligent or talented. And that Robert De Niro is the same guy that you see in 90% of his movies. So I always thought there was some deep method acting going on here, or they had to dig down deep and kind of inside the actor's studio type stuff. And it turns out, no, he's just a deranged asshole. I couldn't believe they allowed that to happen, and my understanding is that was requested by the Biden administration. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Have Robert De Niro go walk down the streets of New York with a mask on and then lay into Donald Trump. And, of course, the thing that everybody forgets about all this, when you lay into Donald Trump and diminish Donald Trump and insult Donald Trump, that you're also doing that to 70 million Americans. And I think we're about to find that out in full bloom. So clearly, Donald Trump found guilty, all 34 counts. No surprise to me. I'm no genius, but I predicted that this would be the outcome. Nonetheless, I have to admit that when they announced that verdict, it did kind of take my breath away because of the breadth, the depth, the magnitude of the decision, of the event, and what this does to the country. I have said all along on this show, and actually for years on radio, when I was doing talk radio and FM, that there's a national divorce afoot. And this has been going on for like 6 or 10 years. I used to joke about it with Dennis Miller when I co-hosted with Miller, that it was time to split up the furniture. We were kind of past marriage counseling, and, you know, people are dug in. And that was 10 years ago. So now I think people are really dug in, and I think this may have been the last nail in the coffin in terms of ever uniting this country or trying to mend these divisions amongst us. This trial was such a sham, totally politically motivated, so many things. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think you have to be to know that allowing all the salacious details of the Stormy Daniels things has nothing to do with the alleged crime that Donald Trump has been charged with, and we still don't really know what that is, fixing the books or something with his business. But the fact that they developed 34 charges out of this and held a trial in New York, and that anybody thought he was going to get a fair trial. I know some very smart people like Bill O'Reilly and other people that have been, you know, analyzing stuff like this a long time, way smarter than me. But even Bill O'Reilly was saying that he thought it would be a hung jury or a mistrial, or there would be at least one juror or two that hung on. And I felt all along that would not be the case. If for no other reason than if you're the one juror who said, no, I don't believe this, I don't believe he's guilty, I'm going to stand down, I'm going to be the cause of a hung jury or a mistrial, you have to know that you're not going to be out of court for a day before you're going to get doxxed, and the liberal maniacs are going to put your name out there and your home address, and then the rest of your life becomes a living hell. Your children, if you have them, become endangered. We all know the drill. So I just never believed that there may have been a juror or two who really felt like this was a scam and Trump wasn't guilty. I don't believe, and now we know, there was certainly nobody there with backbone enough to go the distance and stand up for what is right. So I've been talking about this a lot in the last few days, as you might imagine. I do a Friday morning hit, usually every Friday morning on WFEA in Manchester with Drew Klein on the Drew Klein Show, or Morning Update with Drew Klein. And this past Friday, I likened this to, so the Democrats, Republicans, what's going on in the country here since Trump was first elected, kind of like a bad marriage, and we've been trying to work it out and go to marriage counseling. And then what happened last week at the trial, a couple days ago, is one of the people in the marriage got shit-faced drunk and said what they really feel. And I feel like now that's what has happened. And like a divorce where emotions overrule common sense and emotions overrule what is correct. So in a divorce, adults would say, let's be amicable. Let's not have this be any more damaging for the kids than it has to be. Let's try to behave like adults, be amicable, treat each other with respect for the benefit of the kids. And in this national divorce, the kids would be the country. So one would hope that Democrats would be able to, let's tether ourselves a bit here, be a little bit more demure, and let's try to do this national divorce in a way that is not bad for the kids, i.e. the country. Unfortunately, it's abundantly clear that this Trump derangement syndrome thing that we have joked about, and I've joked about it in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, hospice care into final stages of, which is definitely where De Niro was at, by the way. But we joke about it, but there is more to it than that. There is a deep psychosis happening here in the country, which is really alarming. This verdict against a former president was a very, very dark day for this country. And regardless of where you stand politically, if you can't recognize that and acknowledge that, and most importantly, want that to stop, then there is something wrong with you. I have said over and over and over, I have friends who are Democrats. I have lifelong friendships. I've always tried to stay away from getting down in the mud with that because I don't want to jeopardize 40-plus year friendships over politics. The friendship means more to me than, trying to get some point across. But I can tell you now, and I made changes after I cool down in a few days, but right now I feel as though I don't care if you're a 40-year friendship or not. If you're celebrating what happened in New York with this trial and these guilty charges against Donald Trump, I have no use for you in my life. This is a bridge too far. Bad enough everything that they've been doing with our kids in the schools, the indoctrination, the trying to make pedophilia normal. Oh, they're minor attracted people. No. If you want to have sex with a 5-year-old, you're a freak. And I don't mind saying that. And I think more people should say it. We have given our side. Talk about giving tolerance. The Republicans have become the party of tolerance. And in fact, Republicans, conservatives, we've become kind of the pushover party. So like we've transcended tolerance. And we're just now into go ahead and beat me mode. It's transcended tolerance. And as Dennis Miller always used to say about the liberals, a party of tolerance, tolerant of everything except a different opinion, which is exactly unbelievably true. So I think a very, very dark day for America. I don't think I'm overstating that. I think that also that July 11th, that Judge Merchan is going to put Trump in jail. I believe that. I hope I'm wrong, but there's no reason to think that they won't do that or that would be, they won't go that far. Yeah, they will. That's the end game, and it's what they've been after all along. So July 11th, I believe Trump goes to jail. I also believe that we're flirting with, at some point, I think the other side really begins to, become less tolerant than we have been. And I certainly don't advocate violence. I've never advocated violence, but I can see violence coming. And when it does, they will blame Donald Trump and MAGA, Trump supporters, whatever you want to call us. They'll blame us for that, even though clearly this has been the end game. They want it to happen so they can say, I told you so. These people are so intellectually diminished that it's breathtaking to me. I'm looking at guys like Joe Scarborough, CNN, MSNBC, people that you would think have kind of a base level of intelligence. Otherwise, how did you get there? And you're making $10 or $15 million a year as an analyst. How did you get there? When I watch the response from some of these people to Trump's guilty verdict, it was like something you might expect literally from 8 or 9-year-old girls. Seriously. Ha, 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 laugh out loud. The most childish, immature response to this from people that should know better. They can't tether themselves. And that's why I say there is a psychosis underneath all of this that is really alarming to me. One of the other interesting things that happened in the last week or so, Dennis Quaid is out promoting his movie where he plays Ronald Reagan. This has been in the works for many, many years, and I've been waiting for it to come out. I am an admitted Dennis Quaid fan. Always had kind of a man crush on Dennis Quaid. I think he's a really underrated actor. I think he's an underrated intellect. He's also a pilot, flies his own jet, so the aviation thing for me is pretty cool. But I always thought Dennis Quaid was an underrated actor. Unlike Robert De Niro, he has not just done gangster movies and movies where it fits his personality. He said, I mean, God, I think I saw him in an interview the other day. He's made like 140 films or something. But, Great Balls of Fire, Jerry Lee Lewis, and more recently, I Can Only Imagine, kind of a Christian-based film. A Dog's Purpose, made this beautiful movie a few years ago about dogs and the meaning of dogs in our lives. Just a really, really varied actor and a super smart guy. But more importantly, and unlike Robert De Niro, reasoned. So Dennis Quaid, who just had said a few days ago in an interview with Piers Morgan that he will be voting for Trump, and he said why. But it's a reasoned, disciplined explanation and a reasoned, disciplined approach to why he got to that decision. And he has said that he's an independent, a true independent, and he's voted all over the place in the course of his life, as have I. He voted for Bill Clinton once, as did I. Before I was kind of grew out of all of that and started stepping back and looking at the overview. And that's kind of when I changed my political affiliation, although I'm an independent, whatever that means. So I'm not party bound to either party. I vote for the person. And I had said all along, and I had said it on the radio when Trump was running, that if Trump was running as a Democrat, I still would have voted for him. It's the policy, it's the mindset, it's the backbone that appeals to me and not just the party line. And you can see this with the Democrats. This has always been the case, and this is why Biden's poll numbers never go below 37%. He may vary on specific issues, like if you think Biden's doing a good job on the border, 80%, no. But when it comes down to affiliation, who you're going to vote for, he never drops below 37%. And those are the Kool-Aid drinkers. Those are the people that are always going to vote Democrat because their disdain and hatred for conservatives, traditional America, our Judeo-Christian background in this country, and more importantly, the Constitution. They have complete and utter contempt and disdain for it, and that's why they'll never leave this party, and that is why we are on the verge of something really not good in this country. This is the final nail in the coffin, as far as I can tell. This is the national divorce. What's more incredible to me is that the Democrats fail to recognize, and again, this goes to my hypothesis that there's a psychosis here. They fail to recognize that all these things they're doing to try to diminish Trump, to stop Trump, to handcuff Trump, to imprison Trump, it's not working. Trump raised $52 million in the first 24 hours after the guilty verdict. A history in the country. What does that tell you? And of those people that donated, 29.7% were people who had never donated to a Republican cause, conservative cause, or win red, which is Trump's platform. 30% brand new people. That has to be independents. That has to be some Democrats. I've been busy with work and things have happened that I don't even realize. So I'm probably missing a bunch of stuff. And my producer here just told me I didn't even know that Joe Manchin left the Democratic Party a day or two ago in the wake of this ridiculous weaponization of the judicial system. For Joe Biden to come out in the speech that he had a day or two ago and demagogue this and say that Trump should be ashamed of himself for calling this a rigged trial and the damage that it does, what total BS. Anyone who can look at this objectively knows what this trial was all about. It was rigged. It was orchestrated. The jurors were instructed by the judge. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but there were hundreds of things and hundreds of elements in this trial that any common sense person with an IQ over 60 knows are wrong. And when you take this to the judicial system, people who have the power to take your freedom away, now that's right up there with law enforcement, people who have the power and authority to take your life, and a judicial system that has the power to take your freedom away. This is serious stuff. We've entered a new dimension here, and it's a little unsettling. My gut is that Trump wins by a landslide in November. When you have people like James Carville and Brad Axelrod, when they're the voice of reason in the room, that's a pretty good indication that things have gone far off the rail. I mean, James Carville, and who I've always kind of liked because he's kind of, he's a maverick. I don't agree with him on anything, but I've always kind of liked his style. But Carville has been saying for months now to the Democratic Party in general, this ain't working. You're throwing shit against the wall and hoping something will stick, and it's not working. Everything you do strengthens Trump. And I think that will continue to be the case because I think there are more and more Americans, and Joe Manchin leaving the party, as I just found out, is just another sign of that at least there are some lucid Americans out here who are able to separate themselves from their emotional, childlike attachment to their party and actually stand up for the country and understand that this is not good for the country. We have entered dangerous waters, and this trial has been nothing but a distraction for all the failed policies of this administration. While the border remains wide open, hundreds of thousands of people dying from fentanyl overdoses, our abysmal withdrawal from Afghanistan, our attack on the oil and energy industry that has caused inflation almost by itself to the point where there is no middle class in this country. People are hurting. People are having a hard time making ends meet. Credit card debt, all-time high. Automobile foreclosures, all-time high. 2 wars raging in the world, the Middle East, Ukraine. Also read this morning, CBS reports that what's thriving in Ukraine right now? Nightclubs and nightlife. So all these billions of dollars that we're sending over there, apparently they're opening nightclubs and everyone's having a good old time over there with part of it. Americans are sick of our money being squandered away. They're sick of this administration that spends and spends and spends. And I think most Americans are particularly sick of these insipid, vacuous cows that are running the country. Joe Biden is an abysmal failure of a man, and in my opinion, he always has been. He's a pathological liar. He's a plagiarist. He's a glad-handing, back-slapping dope, and he always has been. He embodies everything that most people hate about politics. And don't even get me going on Kamala Harris or Karine Jean-St. Pierre or the rest of the fucking unbelievably insipid people there that are running the show here. And between the 3 or 4 I just mentioned, I bet they don't break 100 in IQ. Joe Biden has always spent his life, let's have an IQ contest. Let's have a push-up contest. Give me a break. Run the country and lead Never mind all the backyard, schoolyard bully stuff. Last week on Memorial Day, I sent out to some few friends of mine a clip of Ronald Reagan speaking at Normandy on the anniversary of D-Day when he was president. It was one of the best speeches I think an American leader has ever given. I'm not a historian, so I'm not going back to, presidents that were in office before I was born. Ronald Reagan gives a speech there. He's reading a letter from a woman whose father served in World War II and landed on the beach at Normandy, and she's in the audience. Her father had since died and had always wanted to get back to Normandy, and she relates it in this letter that President Reagan is reading, how you never got back here, Dad, but I did, and I'm here today, and I will remember these people forever in your place. And Reagan is tearing up, barely gets through the last few minutes of this speech, and it's not fake, it's a leader. So here's a man who was able to speak, represent the country, show his sensitivity and fragility, and be moved by something that is truly moving. And I really miss that. Trump has a lot of that with the rougher edge that is emblematic of life in America today. We live in a much more coarse culture. I understand that. We brought that upon ourselves with the internet, pornography, violent entertainment, all the stuff that goes along with that. I get it. Trump is a Reagan for 2024 America. But it's the same message. It's the same leadership skill. And I think that he wins by a landslide in November if they don't take more drastic measures to eliminate him, which is certainly possible. I hate to say that. But I think he wins by a landslide in November. And I also think if he doesn't, you can kiss this country goodbye. I really feel that way. I don't see anybody else with the vision, the backbone, the stamina, the discipline to save this country and turn us around from where we are now. And that also assumes that there isn't something else very big that happens between now and November. And I think that remains a lively possibility. Sorry to keep the show not so light today. We're going to try to keep it funny and try to keep it moving along, try to make my points with humor here. But this really, truly was such a dark day for America. It's been pretty difficult to be funny about anything in these last couple of days because, and it's not about Trump personally for me, it's about the assault on the country. It's about the treatment of the kids. Keep the blue side up. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.